and Peter. Okay, cool. Good morning, beautiful. I responded to you in Heartbeat. Please, please, please let me know if that's helpful. If you have any questions, if you need any sort of like clarity, or you know what I mean, like this doesn't really make sense, but let me know. Anyways, I'm going to dive in. So for those of you that are in Heartbeat, so I was just saying, I just made a new welcome video and I'll probably redo it again, but I just wanted to get it up there because I do have a lot of people asking to be a part of the community, and I haven't let anybody in because there's still things I'm still sorting out in Heartbeat, which has been conversation for another time. I would like to know though, I know there's 2 of you on here. Me and Heather talked about a little about this yesterday, but Krista, if you have any insight, you know, to Heartbeat versus Facebook. I feel like I'm just going to make Heartbeat work, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, we don't understand how this works, or this isn't working, or whatever. So let me know if that's how you feel. I'm always happy to hear feedback. Okay, so anyways, I did a Heartbeat video, and you can go in there and watch it, and it's how to use Heartbeat. Now, guys, this is for the people that are in the Aligned AF community. That is my free community hosted on Heartbeat. For those of you in Money Magic, I'm going to make a separate video for you guys because there's going to be things that you can see on there that other people can't see. Okay, so you guys will have your own welcome video about how to use it. Is that helpful for you guys? Let me know. Okay, so today we are diving into one of my favorite topics and something that has been on me so much lately, like on my mind, because I'm seeing so much of this happen with so many of my clients, and I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. And it's the fact of using, like, why nervous system regulation is the first part of you actually creating money and the money and success you desire and holding on to it. I have a lot of people, and you guys know this, I've had people leave their 7-figure business mentors to come work with me and get way better results with me than they did their 7-figure business mentor because of this one piece. Now, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to ask you to really think about, do I even know what nervous system regulation is? Am I even aware of what that looks like? Do I know when I'm dysregulated? Because there's so much talk online about it, but I don't see enough people talking about it in respect to money, business, and success, okay? So I really want you to think about, do I even know what that means? Do I know what it means to even be dysregulated? And if you guys maybe want to drop anything in the chat and say, yeah, it means this, or yeah, I experienced this, or yes, I know, or no, I don't, drop it in the chat. I've got the chat open. And if not, that's totally cool too. But I want you to really, really lean into, and I can give you like a few of the things that I see. People not showing up consistently or going up and down with consistency, right? Like up and down. And guys, you can actually look at me as a really good example, which is hilarious, right? Because I help my clients make the most ridiculous amounts of money doing this work, and I struggle with it. But you guys know my story is that I have literally done work with people to try to teach them my own process, because my process is my own. You will not find anybody else that works the way I do. It is neuroscience backed, which is why it works, because we have the data on it, right? And to teach somebody how to do my process so I could experience it, because I need this work. I created this work, this community, and my membership and my other programs because I wish it's something that I had had. So if you're not showing up consistently, if you're showing up kind of like on a roller coaster, or if you notice that you show up consistently, but like it's never quite like clicking, something's not working. So it either feels like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, you feel like, you just feel like something's just not right, okay? So yes, that is more of an alignment issue than a nervous system regulation issue, but it can cause, so out of alignment, right? Me and Krista were just talking about this. When things feel hard, your business should never feel hard. Anything you desire should never feel hard. Doesn't mean that we don't have to put the work in, right? But the work that we are putting in should not feel like we are pushing a boulder up a hill. If it does, there's an alignment issue. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is, if your brain and body do not want the thing that you think you want, that will cause nervous system dysregulation if you don't have the right tools to navigate it. So I want you to think of the 2 things that I said first. Do I show up consistently, or is it kind of like up and down? Those are, I think, the big ones. The other thing is, when you receive money, how does it feel in your body? Does it feel like the most natural and normal thing? Like if I handed you $10,000 cash right now, imagine it in your hand, how does it feel? Does it feel like the most natural and normal thing, or does your body go, right? The other thing is that, do you hold money well? Meaning that when you get money, you aren't spending it as fast as you can. A lot of us are using something like spending or receiving as a way to self-soothe. The reason that we self-soothe is we have a dysregulated nervous system. Now, guys, I don't want to say that everybody in the world has a dysregulated nervous system, but I would say that a lot of people do and don't even know it. I see people that, so here's what happens. You either have a dysregulated nervous system and you don't show up consistently, or you do show up consistently and it's not working. And usually it's not working because you know on some level your nervous system can't handle it. You can't hold it. It can't hold more clients. It can't hold the money, can't hold the responsibility, whatever it may be, right? And so you block yourself from having it. And I actually responded to some questions about this in Heartbeat, because guys, when you do not get what you want, there is a reframe that you are always getting exactly what you want. There is a part of you that maybe didn't want what you thought you wanted because of perceived, like, okay, I'm going to burn out, or it's going to be too much responsibility, or I'm going to be too seen, whatever the case may be. The truth is, and I mean, after all the clients I've worked with, I have never, ever seen one person be completely in alignment, meaning their brain and body both wanting the same thing and not getting it. Not once. If you come to me and you say, okay, I want XYZ and I'm not getting it, it's because there's a part of you that doesn't want it or perceives it as a threat. So then what happens, right, is then we beat ourselves up over it, which just regulates us even more. So start there. That's why the beginning part of my framework is bringing the unconscious conscious and healing it. That healing is the reset of the nervous system. Instead of going into fight or flight, instead of being super worried about money, instead of being worried about what people will think of you or if you're doing it right. I see like the doing it right one is a big one for me, but also a lot of my clients that need to do this work. So basically, you know that you've got some nervous system work to do if you feel reactive, if you're super just like up and down, and if you just feel like on edge or kind of like pushing into that fight or flight. The other side to this is we can kind of numb out sometimes and just say, oh, I'm equal. I'm what am I trying to say? Like I'm neutral. Guys, you guys, for those of you in my world and you've been in my trainings, you've done this work, you know that neutral is a very powerful place to manifest from. But neutral is different than numbing out. And it takes a trained practitioner to be able to actually like look at that, you know, see it, clock it, and be like, okay, this is not neutral, this is actually numbing. So I want you guys to just really think about, is my nervous system super regulated? And the one thing, I know I've thrown a lot at you guys, but the one thing that you can ask yourself, the one thing that you can ask yourself that will tell you the truth about it is, am I okay if things don't work out? Am I okay if it all goes to shit? Because if you don't, we're business owners. If you don't trust yourself to handle it when things go sideways, you will not allow yourself to have the thing because of the perceived fear of, I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm going to be doing too much work. People are not going to like me or like it. Like people like all the time, like I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Like I have to be okay with everyone not liking me. With actually, I had somebody, this is actually a funny story. I wasn't even going to share this, but I feel like I should. So I had somebody recently and they were in my world and they canceled their membership. But you guys know I've been having issues with Heartbeat. And so for some odd reason, it took her out of Aligned AF as well, which is my free community. So I reached out to her, nothing about canceling the membership, just literally like, hey, are you trying to get out of the Aligned AF community, or was this a problem with the back end? Because the Heartbeat team was doing stuff on my back end and there were some issues with some people in the community's accounts. And literally, she just said like this whole long thing about like kind of like thinking that I was asking why she canceled, which guys, I don't care. Like if you want to give me, it's not that I don't care. It's like, if you want to give me feedback, I am here for that, but I'm never going to be like, you canceled. I'm so upset. Like I'm a business owner. People are going to cancel their memberships. Like that wasn't it at all. And I literally just responded and said, oh my gosh, like no worries at all. I just wanted to make sure that you were being supported. If you want in the Aligned AF community, like let me know and I can reactivate your account, right? And we kind of went back and forth a few messages just about, you know, that. And literally it ended up with her blocking me. I was like, so this is what I mean. When things, if that were to bother me, I could never run a 6- and 7-figure business. It just wouldn't happen. but I'm so regulated that, and not always, I have to do my own work, and I'm actually actively looking to teach somebody to do my process so I can experience it as well, because I know how powerful it is. But for the most part, I tend to be pretty regulated considering everything I have going on. Krista and Heather, they know I've had a lot going on in my life recently, just all the things, but I have a lot of tools, and I also have the insight because I do have a background in clinical hypnosis, and I'm trauma trained, and I'm a trauma survivor, so I understand about dysregulation in the nervous system, right? But I have a lot of tools. But just because you have all the tools, sometimes you need the person to hold the space. And so if anybody has anything to say about this, I would love to hear it, especially those of you that are in my Money Magic community or my membership. How many times have you guys messaged me or dropped it in the queues and supports or whatever about, oh, I didn't do that because you weren't there to do it, like facilitate it, or I know how to do it, but I can't do it in the moment, right? Sometimes we need the people to hold the space for us to use the tools that we already know. Yeah, right? And that has a lot to do with our regulation. If we refuse to just sit down and be still with ourselves, I don't want to say that's a dysregulation issue, but if we can't slow down enough to be with ourselves, to use the tools we know, I would be very, very, very surprised if there wasn't some dysregulation and some deeper healing work to do it. That's why I do deeper healing work, and that's why I do this like regulation work, right? If you're not regulated, if you're not doing this deeper healing work around the things that I want to be mindful about how I say this. So a lot of times we think we know what's holding us back. Oh, my mom used to say this, and my dad used to do this, and this happened to me. But 9 times out of 10, that is actually not what's actually going on in your body. That's why I always track things from the sensation in your body, because our brains are hyper intelligent, and our brains will tell us, oh yeah, that's the problem. Just look over there, work on that one. But they work on it and work on it and work on it because that's not actually the problem. And Heather, I don't know if you want to share, but we did a deep healing session recently, and this happened with her. She had something that we thought was it, and then as it turns out, there was something like deeper, right? Because a lot of times our brains are literally wired to keep us safe, and that's why I track things through the body. The brain and body and how they communicate is your nervous system. And if your nervous system is out of whack and your brain and body don't want the same things, or there's a part of you that is afraid to have what you want, you will self-sabotage. You will not allow yourself to have it. The work is allowing you and all parts of you to actually desire what you want. Sorry, so I don't know if you guys can see this. There's like, yeah, right? I know. There's like this bag that I had something in, and I guess I took it out, and now the wind's blowing it, and I was like, oh shit. I'll get it later. It's probably gonna go into the pool. That's okay. Sorry. Yeah, guys. And so the thing is that if we don't trust ourselves to handle all the things, we won't allow ourselves to have it, especially if we have some sort of story around burnout or doing too much. Like I don't know how many of you know this, probably most of you know this, that my first job was a very high level position at the Pentagon. I was extremely high level in the government. In a past life, I did international law and some other things, and was very high level. And so I very much derived my worth from working very hard and being successful. And it burned me out to a point that now it even shows up in my business, where I'll notice if I'm like, oh, I'm doing too much. I'm doing too much. And guys, I don't actually work that much. I'm just being real with you guys. I don't work that much. I actually probably work the least amount of everybody I know. But I get results because when I do show up and when I do like come online and talk about my offers, people buy them every time because my brain and body is in alignment with not only the money and success I desire, but also my offers and my price points and all the other things. But if we're dysregulated, we won't even be able to sit still and sit with ourselves long enough to even check in and say, how does this feel? And guys, I'm going to be very real with you. We're all women. That also has to do with our cycle. I just bought a Fitbit, so I'm really excited to be able to like track more, but I track everything. And I know for me that I also had an autoimmune I say had because I just refuse to just say that I have one. But I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. I think it was earlier this year, last year, whenever that was. And it really messed with like my hormones and my cycle. And anyways, it doesn't matter. But the point is, there was a point where like for 10 days out of the month, I couldn't even function. Like my brain literally wouldn't work. It like felt like my synapses were firing, but it wasn't being caught. Like I would start a sentence and like it would just, I'd be like, wait, what was I saying? It's getting better, and I'm going to be working with a nutritional therapist soon. But I've really done a lot on nervous system regulation and eating well and taking care of my body. But the point to this is that if we if we do not allow ourselves, first of all, the grace to just be okay that that's where we're at. I think that wasn't really where I was going to go with this, but it's what came through. I think a lot of us, especially as women, we tend to be very hard on ourselves, especially for something like that. And I think it's so important for me, and it was such a game changer to me to track my cycle and be like, okay, for these 10 days, I really struggle. So I'm going to have lower work days, or I'm going to make sure that I'm prepared for it or whatever. But it also gave me a way to be like, oh, this is why I feel this way, or this is what's going on. It's not me. Right. And so I think in general, women tend to have that cycle in general, like whether or not you deal with autoimmune or have 10 days of it. But I think there's a few days out of the month or whatever that, you know, we tend to be more dysregulated, for lack of a better term. But maybe we're more emotional. I tend to get really emotional, and we have a lot of resistance towards sitting down with ourselves. That is not a problem. But when it becomes a problem is when it's a consistent issue. Farron is teaching me all the things, but I can't sit still and do it. Or I'm doing it, but I can't quite I get too caught up in it to actually get a clear reading on what is in alignment and what's out of alignment. And so for those of you, I guess I should probably say what I call alignment. So your brain will want something and your body will want something, but a lot of times they want different things. We always go with what your body is telling you because your body is absolutely, I call it the super unconscious. It's the stuff underneath the stuff that's underneath the stuff that's underneath the stuff. Our brains are just thought patterns, and thought patterns can be rewired pretty easily. It's not the thoughts. I would say emotions are part of it, but it's really the sensations. When you really, really, really think about the thing that really terrifies you. So really think about that for a second. So it could be like not having the money you desire, or, oh my gosh, a client's going to ask for a refund, or, oh, I can't pay my bills, whatever. I want you to track the sensation. There's a sensation there. The emotion, the thoughts, the response, behavior, pattern is all stemmed from that sensation. And so this actually layers in really well with what I'm talking about, because I would say a really good way to know that you're really regulated is that if you're not overly sensational a lot of the time. I'm a really sensational human. I tend to, even with all the work that I've done, even with all the tools I have to stay on top of it because I have so much sensations in my body, and not in a good way, to a way that would literally sideline me if I didn't have tools to process it. Does that make sense? And I give you the tools so you can get the energy out of your body. So you can see that the energy was just there. Like, guys, when we have sensations, all they're trying to do is communicate with you that something needs attention. Something needs like, hey, this thing that you're holding on to isn't serving you. Can we actually do some work to clear it? That's all a sensation is. I've worked with people that had severe anxiety and panic attacks and helped them get rid of them for this reason. Because the side effect is just trying to communicate with you something. Once we give ourselves space to be like, what is it that you need? What can I do? It starts to lessen. But if you have a lot of dysregulation, I feel like I should use a different term, because I don't want anybody to ever feel triggered like I'm calling them out because they're dysregulated, because dysregulation isn't bad. It's just honestly, it's so normal at this point that I feel like most people are operating from that, especially after the last few years that we've had, right? Like the mental health crisis is terrible. People are in fight or flight most of the time. And so if anybody's watching this, I don't want anybody to feel triggered. I'm not trying to call you out for being dysregulated. I'm trying to bring awareness to the fact that I think most of us are operating from that place, and there's a better place to operate from. There's an easier way to do things. There's a way that you can actually process these emotions, process these sensations, and process the misunderstanding. A few weeks ago, I talked about the fact that our memories aren't real. Okay, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I actually posted like a study about it. And so you guys, because anything scientific, I try to drop a link so you guys have that information. But a lot of times, I'm doing this work and I'm going back to these time, usually before the age of 7, when these core neural networks were created. And when I do that, I always think, I wonder how many of these memories aren't exactly, like, I don't want to say they're not, I don't want to tell anybody. I'm never going to deny your experience, because our experiences are our own. But what I will say is that, okay, let me take me for example, because I don't want anybody to ever think I'm like calling them out. But, I go back and I wonder how many of the memories that are one of my core things that have caused so much dysregulation and caused so much anxiety and caused so much XYZ aren't even real. Now, what I can tell you is that the memory, as we recall the memory every single time, think of it as a puzzle getting taken apart and putting back together. But every time we put it back together, it's slightly different. And we have the data on this, right? So every time we recall a memory. But what people don't realize is the sensation and the emotion attached to it. We do have the data on that. And that is so important, because it depends on how the memory made you feel. And for any of you, you guys can think back to maybe with your partner, or maybe with your parents or siblings, where you had a dynamic and you're like, oh, this happened. You're like, what are you talking about? That didn't happen at all. That's not the way that went down. So not saying that their experience is right and yours is wrong, or vice versa, but just really just having like a soft heart about it, and almost being able to just laugh it off and be like, who knows if this is actually true? So in that case, can we just rewire the memory? It doesn't actually matter, right? Like, it doesn't, if you want to create a life that feels good, if you want to create the success and money you desire and all the things that feel good in your body, then rewire those memories that are causing you trouble. Like, yes, like, we don't bypass, we do the deeper work around it. So you get the learning, you get the wisdom from it, and then you rewire the memory, right? Like, I feel like so many people, they look at deep healing work and they think it's so deep. Maybe I shouldn't say deep healing work anymore, but it gets to be light. And you can ask people that I have these sessions with. Sometimes they cry and cry and cry, but sometimes they're like laughing, or it's really light. Like, deep healing work doesn't always have to be like so dark and heavy. And I think when we can bring a little bit of light into it, and compassion for the fact that, oh shit, I am running and operating out of fight or flight, and that's oh fucking okay. Like, the world is literally burned down how many times in the last few years? Like, of course we're all on edge. And for those of you that are not on edge, bravo, please give me your insights and information on how to not be on edge about it. But the truth is, like, I'm joking kind of, but like, the truth is, our nervous systems are wired, or start to create before the age of 7. And a lot of it has to do with, yes, there's a genetic predisposition aspect to it, but it's also the environment that you were in. It's also what you were learned. Like, you've learned behavior, if you have a mom that's very dysregulated, which I did, not only was I genetically predispositioned to already be in that state, but then watching it, living it, learning it. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I looked back and was like, oh, damn, like, people actually grew up not worrying about these things, or not feeling these things, or not being all of this, right? But I didn't know it wasn't normal. And so really sitting, and I'm just going to give you guys a second to look at the chat and ask yourself, ask your body, because it will tell you. Like, you guys know, I say this all the time, ask your body, ask the sensation, it'll talk to you. Check in, be like, do I need to do some regulation work? Is that the next step in my process? And it may not be. So the way that my framework works is like, okay, healing. So that's going to be bringing the unconscious or super unconscious conscious, doing that healing work, which creates regulation. Then we do alignment, so brain body alignment, and then it's neuroscience embodiment, right? So that's the first part of my framework. And if the answer is no, that you don't need regulation, then it's really about getting your brain and body and our thoughts of you on board with what you want. And then we work on neuroscience embodiment, which I probably won't go into today. It's probably a whole other training. But I'm just reading through the chat. Yes, I have that thought more and more lately. Are my memories actually true? Yeah. And, you know, for me, I went through a phase where I was like on this because I have a trauma background. Like I had a lot of trauma when I was young. And I remember when I first learned clinical hypnosis, I remember asking everybody in like my community, like, you know, I think I have repressed memories. And like I kind of was going on this hunt. And they were like, why? Why are you going on this hunt for like memories? Because I have no memories. Like, I mean, we're talking maybe 5 before like the age of 9, which is not normal. That's usually like a trauma response. And so I'm like thinking, oh my God, something really bad happened. And you know, somebody said something to me that was the most liberating thing. They said, does it matter? And at the beginning, I was like, fuck yeah, it matters. I want to know. I want to know if so-and-so did what I think they did or whatever. But the truth is that our brains, again, and our nervous systems are really intelligent. And if we don't have that information, it's because we don't need it yet. It'll come up and out when it's ready. Even when I work with people that are trauma survivors, I don't go looking for it. I work with what's available. I work with what's there. Because if I go and look for it and I pull it out, they may not be ready to handle it. So the truth is that if you can rewire the sensation, that's the most important thing, and then revise the memory, that is some next level shit right there, right? I have to drop off and watch the end of the replay. Have a great day. Yeah, guys, also, I'm really excited. Krista is in the Dominican Republic, so I'm going to get to see her this weekend. So I'm really, really excited. I love how I'm getting to meet so many of you in person. I love this. So hopefully one day I can meet all of you guys. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Yeah, and then also I'll work on getting you into Heartbeat, so you have the replay if you want this. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. You know, I'm always in Heartbeat to support. And also, I say this with so much love that I really, really, really hope that everybody has the tools and gets the support they need to feel like they're in control of their sensations in their body and their emotional state. I feel like it's so, so hard to get to the level that we desire when we feel like we're kind of on a roller coaster. And people talk about the emotion roller coaster or the income roller coaster, but I go further and say it's a sensation roller coaster to really track it from that perspective. So anyways, I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions or need any support, please drop it in Heartbeat. And yeah, so much love to you guys. Heather, I will see you on Thursday, hopefully. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you next week as well. You're so welcome. Bye.